Hi and welcome everyone. We are ready to start today's event, and on behalf of HC Andersen Capital, I would like to welcome you all to this presentation of the Q1 2022 report from AquaPorin that was just released this morning. My name is Rasmus Køjborg, and with us today we have both CEO Matt Boskowski, and we also have CFO Claus Juhl Wulff, who just recently joined AquaPorin. So a warm welcome to you both. And you promised to take us sort of through the numbers and the highlights of the first part of 2022. So looking forward to that. And before I fully hand over to you, I'll also give a warm welcome to those of you who signed up today and listening in. As usual, you can ask questions in the chat room in the lower right corner. So I hope you'll do that. And should you not be comfortable writing in English, you can write it in Danish and we'll do the translation. And we, of course, record the presentation here and put it on our different platforms afterwards. But with that, I'll leave it to you, Matt and Claus.
Thank you very much, Rasmus. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you and HC Andersen and our attendees. So we're going to be presenting the Q1 2022 trading statement here today. And as you also introduced us, my name is Matt Boskowski. I'm the CEO of AquaPorin, and I'm joined here by Claus Juhl Wulff, our Chief Financial Officer, who also joined AquaPorin recently. So perhaps before going into the presentation, we can also take this opportunity to have Claus introduce himself to the audience, to you. And it's also, for us, a big day since Claus is also, has started to join AquaPorin recently. So please, Claus.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this call and meeting you guys. My name is Claus, as said. I bring to this company more than 20 years of international experience, both from listed companies and also from scale-ups. I'm massively proud and happy to have joined AquaPorin. It's a really interesting company that has a fun and interesting journey ahead of us. What I bring to this one is also I have worked with M&A, I've worked with listed companies. As I said, I lead finance organization in a way where it's structured and it's focused on quality, controls, and of course, making sure that we have business focus on it too. So look really much forward to working with Matt, the rest of the organization, and all of our investors.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Claus. So let's get into the presentation. This is our forward-looking statement. So perhaps I'm not going to read this, but just know that we have this forward-looking disclaimer, as is the case in those presentations. Let's go to the next slide, please. Before we get into the details of the Q1, just an introduction for those who are meeting AquaPorin for the first time. We are a pioneer in water technology. We're an innovative technology company based in Denmark, dedicated to natural water treatment. We are traded on the Nasdaq Copenhagen under the ticker AQP, and we have presence in 3 parts in the world, in the United States with some employees in Los Angeles, of course in Denmark, where our headquarters is located, and in Singapore, where we have quite a strong R&D team. AquaPorin is really about one technology. It's a technology that is based on biotech, and we incorporate this biotech to build our AquaPorin Inside platform. Now, this platform it brings engineering and biotechnology sort of under one roof, and that is really what makes us unique. We're the only company in the world to do this, and we have the largest AquaPorin protein manufacturing facility here in Denmark, and that is really the foundation of what we do through this AquaPorin Inside formulation. This allows us to make products, primarily products in forward osmosis and reverse osmosis. We incorporate those products into systems, and those systems allow us to deliver solutions to our customers in 3 main business areas. Those business areas are drinking water, food and beverage, and industrial water. And so as we go through this presentation, we will be focusing on those 3 when we talk about numbers, when we talk about the progress that we've made. Although we are in Denmark, we are, I don't want to call us a startup anymore, we're a scale up. We are selling the products to the world. And so as you will also see, some of our customers are in areas like China, like India, pilots and with customers from the US. So we are truly a global company. Can we move to the next slide, please? We have a big ambition. We want to solve the world's water crisis. It's a huge ambition for potentially a company of our size, but it also shows, what we aspire to do. I think that, just a simple fact, when you think that 3/4 of the world's surface is covered in water, and that only 1% of this water can be easily accessed and utilized for drinking water and for industry, there clearly is a need for novel technologies to figure out how can we change that? How can we have access to more water at an affordable cost with new technologies that are going to help us to do that? And that is also what drives us here at AquaPorin. And this has driven the company for the last decade, primarily on the R&D stage. Now that we want to move to the commercial stage and we are doing this, our first pillar of our strategy is to commercialize products and solutions. Then our second pillar is to succeed in our 3 core business areas, which is where we really want to focus. And I put those 2 bullets in bold because this is what we're going to be discussing mostly as we give the Q1 update here. Of course, we continue promoting sustainability in everything that we do. That is at the core of really our existence as AquaPorin. Our growth and scale up is done primarily through partners. This is because we want to be an asset light organization and really focus on areas where we have our value, which is the AquaPorin inside formulation, which is the AquaPorin protein, and leave the traditional membrane manufacturing, if you want, to our partners, and together design that innovative solution, which today is the membrane with AquaPorin inside in it. We continue to innovate. Innovation has also been what has given the roots to AquaPorin, and we continue in that same space. So we have an open innovation department that is ensuring that we stay at the forefront of what we can do with the AquaPorin protein, the biotech facility that we have here, and also the next generation of our products. So now let's get into some of the Q1 updates on the next slide, please. So this slide is really about our strategies coming to life. And this is our drinking water business in images. So in the first quarter, drinking water accounted for 74% of revenue. That is approximately 5.2 million. You can see this is quite in line with the 80%, which is the bubble in the right hand corner here, which is what we target for the year. So in the year, about 80% is going to come from drinking water. And so we are quite aligned with how we set out our commercial path at the beginning of the year. Some of the key highlights are that we are getting repeat sales from our key accounts. That is also very important because it speaks of the momentum that we're gaining and the trust that we're building with those accounts. The co-branding strategy is working, and we'll get into the details of that as we go through the 2 examples that are on this page. And the message of water filtered by nature, of a drop of nature, that is also resonating very well with our customers, and it's being seen as a strong differentiator in the market. So these are all very positive things that I think we have to keep in mind. Starting with the first highlight here, we've sold flat sheet. We have this agreement with Philips, to whom we provide the AquaPorin inside membrane flat sheet. This means that they take that flat sheet, roll it into membrane elements, which they then put into those purifiers, so as the one you see on the left-hand side. This is part of the co-branding, and for those of you who are able to read in Chinese, you can read what's on the slide. But really, they're really pushing the AquaPorin filtered by nature story together with their new product releases. And this has been a very successful campaign so far. More than 1,000 new households in China each week are getting a purifier that is powered by AquaPorin inside. And I really believe that this is the beginning of this collaboration. China is really important to us, as half of the world's market for point-of-use purifiers is in China. If AquaPorin can crack China, this means that we have access to the largest market for purifiers. And we don't see any better way to do it than with a strong brand like Philips. And we have a really nice relationship with them in that regard. As we move to the right-hand side, you see also the Vestel purifier, which is co-branded as well with AquaPorin inside. The campaign is kicking off in Q2, and this is based on 2,500 purifiers that have been sold. The link between these 2 and Q1, of course, is that on the left-hand side, the first shipments that we've made to Philips were in Q1, or the repeat shipments, and the deliveries and the campaign that we have made, we continued making it in Q1 as well to Vestel, which is what is represented by the middle picture. A little while ago, we also introduced the kitchen unit. What's really unique about the kitchen unit, you see the green image in the back was the prototype, whereas the black image is really actually, sorry, the green image is the rendering, whereas the one in the front is the prototype. We are very much on the right track here. The prototype is looking like the rendering. It's been validated by key opinion leaders, and we are continuing this development. So we've received the first one in Q1. We're going to be receiving the second prototype shortly, and we expect to have some of the first sort of larger volume prototypes towards the end of this year. And again, the development is going according to our plan. The last thing I will mention about these about drinking water is that what you see here also represents different ways in which we go to the market. On the left-hand side is we go with our flat sheet membrane, the sort of most basic offering that we can do that allows us to do co-branding in high volumes. Then as we go to the middle one, it's the sale of purifiers that are under the sink purifiers. So again, a slightly higher share of wallet for us, but also a slightly lower volume in comparison. And that makes perfect sense since we're not in the mass sale of purifiers. We are trying to target niche markets. And then as you go to the right-hand side, you see a more complex unit, which is the kitchen purifier, which again has a bigger share of wallet for us. But again, it's going to be a lower volume item than the ones you see on the left. So it just gives you a bit of an appreciation on the kind of balance that we have to strike between the types of components that we sell into the drinking water segment. Could we go to the next slide, please? So this slide is about our industrial water and food and beverage offering. So in Q1, approximately 25%, 26% of the revenue came from industrial water and food and beverage. This represents about 1.9 million Danish kroner. What is really key here is that we're focusing on key segments in both areas. So on the left-hand side, it's our standardized container that was sold to treat leachate. This was done with a key partner, and in a few seconds, we'll go into a video and I'll walk you through what's in the container. This type of technology, we want to apply it to digestate, of course, leachate, resource recovery, test it for lithium, and we have leads in all of those areas, and that's also what we've been busy in the first quarter is to advance those leads. And again, that is very much aligned with our strategy of the majority of the growth coming from drinking water, however, the development coming from industrial and food and beverage. And then on the right-hand side is our food and beverage container. I think this is the container that we rent out. This is the type of container that we can also sell to key customers. And the traction that we're gaining through food and beverage is really thanks to doing tests and evaluations with this container, who has now been into quite a few parts in the world. And again, it was a key component of our offering in food and beverage to enter into some of the important partnerships that we've announced in food and beverage, like the one with Wafelin and Berghoff, as well as the one with Flavortech that was recently announced. Could we perhaps go to the video as I wrap up sort of my section here? Let me just make sure that and you can hit play. Thank you. I'll just mute the music so you guys can see what's inside. So this is a unit that was made in collaboration with a company called Gradient, who is the integrator and OEM that builds these units. So they're a key partner in China for us. As you walk through this container, you see on the left-hand side, you see the HFFO14 modules, which are forward osmosis modules. These are the modules that extract the water from the leachate and allow it to concentrate the leachate. Leachate is basically the liquid that is collected at a garbage collection station. So the purification that this container does reduces the load of this contaminated liquid that can then be discharged into a safer way at a lower cost. As we pass through this container, you see here, these are reverse osmosis membranes that are provided by our partner. These membranes have for role to also continue some of the purification, but also to do the draw solution for the system so that we can do that extraction properly. And here you see the team that is going to be commissioning this container as we speak, sometime in this quarter. So that's really all I wanted to show you on this video. So thank you very much for showing it. And before we move to the quick highlights from Klaus, I just wanted to address something about the supply chain. I think in our announcement we mentioned a few words about the supply chain. It's important to realize that the global supply chain is stressed at the moment. This means that availability and lead times are impacted. We are, of course, impacted by this like any other player. This means that we have to keep a close eye on dates, on deliverables, especially for systems and for raw materials. This also does create an opportunity for us, actually, because it's a global phenomenon. A lot of the big players in the industry may not necessarily be able to deliver for some of the smaller customers, and that creates an opening for AquaPorin to be able to sell membranes, especially reverse osmosis membranes in the industrial segment, to some of the smaller players, and that provides us with some very valuable references. So I'll wrap my section here, and I'll pass it to Klaus so he can walk us through some of the highlights.
Thank you. So Rasmus, you can go to the slide with the numbers. Next one. So in the announcement we sent out this morning with our Q1 results, as we said in that one, I'll reiterate it here, it's really a strong quarter we're going through. It's really good momentum. We're keeping the momentum that we also saw picking up in 2021. So we actually recorded a revenue in Q1 of 7.1 million, which actually is a really nice growth of 222%. Also said similar to what we saw in 2021. We see, as Matt mentioned, repeat sales from some really key customers of ours, and we are in dialogues with a number of new, potentially very interesting customers that will help us continue the growth we're looking forward to. On the organizational side, we are also working on really shifting everything, every part of the business to be more commercially focused, R&D, sales, everything. It is really about how do we drive commercial success in the business. We have a clear roadmap for where we want to be moving, and we also in that it includes a system solution focus, similar to what we saw in the previous slides as well. So there's a clear view of where we want to be moving to. On R&D, we are continuing developing new applications on our existing things. At the same time, we also are working on getting the second generation of our AquaPorin Inside formulation. So we feel that with our Q1 results, we are definitely in line with where we wanted to be and have a lot of good positive momentum with us. So if you go to the next slide, Rasmus. This also means that the board and us have kept and maintained the financial guidance we've given at the beginning of the year. So we're still expecting revenues to be somewhere between 20 to 30 million. EBIT, that's going to be negative 90 to 100 million, and EBIT is going to be negative 105 to 115 million. Yeah. So no change in that, and I think Q1 shows that we're on the right track for where we want to be for this year.
Thank you, Klaus. Just to wrap up here, this I think gives you a good overview of both on the strategy, on the products, on some of the developments. We touched on the numbers, and I think if the audience or yourself have any questions, we'll be happy to take them at this time.
Very good. Thank you very much, Matt and Klaus, for this presentation. Yeah, there's a few questions that came in during the presentation, so let's kick in with some of those. There was one asking here if you could sort of give an update on competition, and I also think in that sense, sort of like after your IPO and you started sort of your commercial journey, you probably increased your sort of visibility in the market. I know you have patents on some of your products, of course, but how is competition looking at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So again, we look at it broken into the three markets. I think if you look at industrial water and food and beverage, the competition here is we're starting to see some competitors in forward osmosis. It still is a fairly niche application, and I believe that with our membranes we have a pretty good product in terms of its concentration capability. So I think that is still quite a strong differentiator for us. So although we do see competition, I think it's not impacting our conversations today with the different types of customers that we are discussing our solutions with. But of course, we have to stay connected to the market, stay abreast of what others are doing, and we have a team that is on the lookout for that. In drinking water, I mean, that is a totally different beast. Drinking water, it's the point of use market. It's extremely competitive, very fragmented, with many players. But again, I actually think that this plays to our advantage, because nobody has AquaPorin protein, AquaPorin inside, the water filtered by nature brand, and is able to offer this to the end consumer. And so in a way, the high level of competition actually in drinking water, I believe it's for us to seize that as an opportunity and to say, look, the market is super fragmented. Everybody's trying to do kind of the same. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get a better flow, how to get a better connectivity. But we have something that others don't. And that is, that unique differentiator. So yes, a lot of competition, but I think through what we're seeing with Philips, with Vestel, I think we are cracking that competitive landscape quite nicely today. And that is also, what I hope is going to come in the next sort of quarters of 2022, is that we're going to be able to demonstrate that, yes, indeed, we have a differentiator, and that is setting us apart from competition.
Very good. Thank you for that, Matt. And there was also a question here relating sort of to lockdowns in China, how that could have affected your business, both sort of in the drinking water and also on some of the pilot projects in your industrial water segment. Could you put a few words on that? And also, because I guess sort of with your commercial journey that has just started and some larger clients like Philip, etc., I guess sort of reliability is sort of very important aspects.
So yes, I think the lockdown has had an impact on our industrial water business a little bit. It delayed, I think, by a couple of weeks, the commissioning and the delivery of the pilot project. So, but this was not, it doesn't have a material impact on our revenue recognition for the year or for the quarter. So an impact, but not significant. Now, I think what's really interesting is in drinking water, because that is where a good portion of the revenue is coming from for us from. But the arrangement that we have, and because we supply the actual membrane flat sheet to Philips Water Solutions, they are the ones that are commercializing from China in China, and they are using a lot of media, a lot of digital platforms. They sell through TikTok, they sell through Baidu, they sell through a lot of the different kind of how do you call it, the remote sort of app powered channels, and we have not seen a negative impact from the lockdown on that. Of course, I'm sure there's an impact on their people and how they operate, but now I'm speaking for our customers. I think we ourselves have not seen the impact of that at the moment, but again, we keep a close eye on that, of course.
Very good. Thank you for that, Matt. I just see that someone is stating they can still hear some of the music from the video in the background. I'm just going to go back here and to see if I could somehow make sure that it's not on. But yeah, hopefully it should disappear. There was also a question here relating to sort of the possibilities of sort of joint venture or some sort of co-financing on sort of your early stage product or projects. But I guess that already takes place. Isn't that correct, Matt?
So in open innovation, we have quite a few, tracks for public and private partnerships, for where we're scouting technologies and so on. But then the business model through which this comes to reality, it's not defined. It doesn't mean that we have to do a joint venture or anything like that. I think we are, of course, open to joint ventures. We are open to growing in different types of ways. But we're going to assess this, sort of as the opportunities come by. But I can't really say much more than that, because I think this question probably alludes to a little bit of the developments that we mentioned before in open innovation, and I think that's the path there is really through public and private partnerships and co-developments with universities and other partners. So that's on track. I mean, that is, yeah, it's continuing.
Sounds very good. If we look at it, it seems like drinking water was sort of the main driver here in Q1, and you also stated that it will be sort of on the revenue side in the remaining parts of 22. But you also mentioned a good number of strategic partnerships on the industrial and on the food and beverage side on your in your statement this morning. Are you gaining sort of good foothold in some of these segments? And what is the usual sort of time horizon? You don't have a long commercial history to compare with, but sort of when you enter a strategic partnership, when will that usually sort of get into sort of more stable orders and, you know, business relation with these clients that you're doing the strategic partnership with?
Yeah.
That was a long question, but I hope you.
No, but it's a good one. I mean, I can you know, what I can say is that the time horizon that we look at is when we enter into a strategic partnership, we of course have to let the partner also test the market together with us, forced to see a little bit better of, you know, what kind of traction are they getting. So that is kind of the point that validates whether the solution is going to be easily repeatable or not. And it also is very different depending on the strategic partnership that we have entered into. For instance, the one that we announced with Forward Water, that is specific to North America in areas of produced water and lithium. We have to see how our partner and us are able to incorporate forward osmosis in a much larger flow sheet or a much larger process. And that in itself, you know, can take a good year to develop. So, you know, that's kind of on the industrial water side. They're longer development projects. On the food and beverage side, what we're trying to do is to standardize as much as possible. So over there, if we find that, for instance, with the announcement with Wafelin or with Flavortech, we get a strong validation from a customer that for whom this solves a specific problem, and they're like, wow, this is, you know, really what I've been looking for, then I can see the acceleration being a bit faster. But again, you know, it's kind of what we did initially during the IPO, where we're very clear that the revenue is going to be drinking water, industrial water, and then food and beverage. I think it's going to continue in this sort of order, and I would expect industrial water to start picking up its contribution, as well as food and beverage in 23, 24 in a more sort of significant way. And that's where we will start seeing a shift from the 70-30 balance to something, you know, closer to a 50-50 eventually down the line.
That sounds very good. Thanks. There was also a question sort of on the funding side, looking at your current cash position, that you might at some point need some new funds. And I think it's probably a question that we will, I think we had it before and will probably come again. But could you just put a few words on that, please?
Yeah, of course. So, you know, we keep a close eye on our cash position. We keep a close eye on the revenues that we generate, on our spend, and we're good on the cash position. We have, I believe, about 100 and some 2, I think, million kroner in cash right now. And but, you know, like any other company, of course, we have to look at you know, where we are and when. And depending on how this looks like in the coming, you know, in the future, we're going to have to evaluate our funding needs. But for the moment, I'm just, I guess, reiterating what I said a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, that at the moment, for the developments we have in place and for the growth that we expect, we're comfortable with the cash position.
Very good, thanks. And I can see we're running a bit short of time, but there's one very sort of product-specific question that we could probably end the presentation with. That is in regards of ice cube machines or ice nuggets machines. Someone is stating that these can usually get sort of contaminated and bacteria can grow in them. Will your technology be able to prevent that, and would they be able to be installed in these kind of machines?
So it's a super question, and I'll go back to our kitchen segment, because in the kitchen unit, this unit actually produces ice cubes. So the ice cubes are produced with reverse osmosis filtered water by AquaPorin inside. The reverse osmosis membrane actually eliminates bacteria, viruses, particles, contaminants. So the source of the water that you have to make the ice cube is as free as you can potentially. It's very, the chances of that water actually being contaminated is super low. So the contamination could happen thereafter in the system, and that is where I think we some people might have concerns. But again, for that reason, we are also actually having a system where the ice cubes get flushed every now and then, so that they're always kind of regenerated. But I guess the answer in a nutshell is that yes, if you do use reverse osmosis as a pre-treatment technology to your ice cubes, you do decrease the chance of sort of bacterial contamination, as your water has had an extra layer of treatment compared to water that would be coming, let's say, from the tap or from other sources where the water could be contaminated.
Very good. Thank you very much. And then, just one final last question came in here, Matt. I hope it's all right that we go a little bit further. But there was someone mentioning that you had, I think it was in the beginning of the year, you had this order in Russia of some different membranes, and I think we also came across it on your on the call we had after your annual account for 2021. But could you just repeat what happened there with this order?
Yeah, so we had an order from a company in Russia, a very nice company. So there's nothing negative to say about them, but due to the situation in Russia, in Ukraine, we decided not to do a commercial business with Russia any further. And so it was a hard decision to take, but we think it's the right decision. And what this means is we have some membrane material that was destined for this specific customer, and so we are now looking at other solutions of what to do with this membrane material, and I think that's what we included in our Q1 statement as well, that this could potentially be some level of write-off in the future if we cannot find another use for this membrane. So yeah, it is impacting us. It's thankfully, we were in the very initial stages of the development with this customer, so we're not talking about millions of square meters of membrane, but for sure it's something that we would have liked to see evolve differently.
Very good. Thank you very much for updating on that part as well. And with that, we will have to conclude for today. Thank you very much for those of you listening in with a lot of interesting questions. And also thanks to you, Matt and Claus, for a very good presentation of the Q1 report here.
Thank you very much, Rasmus. Pleasure.
Thank you. I'll just wish you all a nice weekend later. Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Bye.